Saturday, 21st of January 2023. There's been an eventful week and lots of things are happening, and lots of things has been said at the WEF party in Davos, and lots of things has happened in the Ukraine. There is one thing that we must pay attention to. What is going on in Belarus? We know that Lukashenko and Putin has got a very good relationship, and we know that there's a lot of interaction between Belarus and Russia. And you see a lot of small articles here and there about Belarus. The Ukrainians is making a big story and trying to whip up emotions and support to sanction Belarus and isolate Belarus and treat Belarus like Russia. The Ukrainians has also set up a lot of trenches and embankments and underground shelters on the Belarusian border. They've also demolished all the bridges going to Belarus, and they have got quite a lot of soldiers on their border with Belarus. So obviously they are fucking nervous about Belarus, because Belarus is quite close to Kiev. And there is a serious build-up of Russian soldiers and Russian equipment in Belarus. And we also know that Belarus and Russia has signed a treaty, and part of that treaty is that Russia will host nuclear weapons in Belarus. But there's something that you must take note of. Take a look at this map. Now, if you look at Belarus, you will see it borders on Ukraine, it borders on Poland, it borders on Lithuania, and it borders on Latvia. Then Latvia and Estonia has borders with Russia. Now those three little Baltic countries, post stamps basically, are extremely aggressive towards Russia. And Lithuania is now the first one that is going to confiscate Russian assets and pass it on to Ukraine, and the US is seeking them on to do it. I don't know, what do they think what the outcome will be here? Because those three little countries there, if Russia decides that enough of their shit, before the West can pour a cup of coffee, it will be over and they will be done. Their problem is that they have a hell of a lot of Russians as citizens in their countries. So they are surely cruising for a bruising. But I have mentioned it earlier in one of my other Skidmarks that there is rumors that the US wants a federation between Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland and Ukraine. And they refer to it as anti-Russia. And once they can get that established, the US is going to dump Europe, because they don't really need Europe, and Europe is costing them a lot of money. Money that they are running out of. So keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. I handled it in more detail in the Skidmark that I did of the Russian soldier's letter to his mother. It is on the channel, you can go and find it. The fact of the matter is there's another little bit of a problem, and that is between Lithuania and Poland is that Russian enclave Kaliningrad. Now, you may have heard about Kaliningrad, but the thing is this: Kaliningrad hosts a more of a strong naval component of Russia and there's a nuclear arsenal there. Now, if anybody is stupid enough to think that tackle Kaliningrad, they must just remember Kaliningrad can fight back viciously. And the Russians is not going to wait for 27 fucking meetings of the Security Council. If anybody moves on Kaliningrad, the Russians are going to blow them to pieces. That is what's going to happen there. But let's get back to Belarus. This image is of one of the Russian top commanders that arrived in Minsk. And those two Belarusian girls presented him with bread and salt. Now, if there's anybody on the channel looking and watching, and so I would really like to know what is the significance of this salt specifically and the bread. Because I saw a clip of Putin arriving in Minsk and the same story happened, bread and salt. And he took some salt and he took a piece of bread. What is the importance of that bread and that salt? Please enlighten me. And then we get to this. Echelons of military equipment are streaming into Belarus. The military security of the Union States continues to build up. Another train carrying military hardware, a part of a regional grouping of troops of the Republic of Belarus and the Russian Federation, arrived in Belarus today. Alexander Lukashenko said during his visit to the Obush-Lesnova range, "We are doing a common cause." Now, what is that common cause? I wonder. I'm going to play you a clip now with some images of the hardware arriving in Belarus. Enjoy it. And then we get this. The transfer of Russian military to Belarus is intensifying. Over the past 2 days, at least 1,400 to 1,600 soldiers of the Russian armed forces could have been transferred to Vitebsk, observers say. Now, I just want to mention, that was 2 weeks ago. Since then, a hell of a lot more messages appear of troops arriving in Belarus. Then we have this. From January 16 to February 1, Russia and Belarus will hold joint tactical flight exercises with the aviation units of the armed forces of the two countries. During the tactical flight exercises, all airfields and training grounds of the Air Force and Air Defense Forces of the Armed Forces of Belarus will be involved. Now, I have seen articles about some of the activity on some of the airfields in Belarus, and there are photographic evidence of Kinshal missiles on those airfields. Russian troops continue to concentrate in Belarus. More soldiers arrive daily, and more trains from Russia continue to come. Something to think about. And you have this. Russian and Belarusian armed forces will march to a designated location according to the Belarusian Defense Ministry. The Defense Ministry of Belarus did not specify the area where the march will take place. However, after their arrival, the soldiers will have to fulfill some combat training tasks. The combat activities are led by the head of the Western Operational Command. There is some serious stuff going on there. And then you have this one. Just look at that equipment. Russia and Belarus have built up the air defense forces of the regional military grouping of Moscow and Minsk, the Defense Ministry of Belarus reported. Now, it's important to take note that it is generally accepted that the Russian air defense systems are way ahead of the Western air defense systems. And then there's this interesting thing. And I mentioned to you that Ukraine has demolished the bridges that connects them to Belarus. A train from Russia with bridge layers was noticed in Gomel. As we remember, Ukrainians have long blown up bridges on the border with Belarus. This is something that we must really take note and keep in mind. 2 more echelons with Russian equipment arrived in Belarus. In total, according to the estimates of the Belarusian opposition, there were at least 91 units of military equipment in. That's a lot of equipment. Now I'm going to show you another map of Belarus. You can stop the show if you want to take a closer look at the image, but there it shows you the placement and distribution of the military units. And then we have this. Russian and Belarusian units that are part of the aviation components of the regional grouping of forces have begun to carry out tasks as part of a joint exercise, the Ministry of Defense of Belarus. Meanwhile, Ukrainian sources write about the takeoff of MiG-31 aircraft from Machulishi airfield. In this regard, an air alert is spreading throughout Ukraine. These MiGs, they carry those Kinshells. And then you have this footage of joint Russian Air Force exercises in Belarus. And I'm now going to play you a short clip with images of those airplanes. And then there's the final thing that I want to share. A Latvian citizen who has lived in Europe for several decades moved to Belarus. Comparing Latvia and Belarus, he says that except for the fight against monuments and the Russian language, there is nothing more to say about Latvia, whereas Belarus is developing both socially and economically. Countries like Belarus have a future. And I don't doubt that. And I hope that you have enjoyed this piece of information. Think about it. Think about it. The Western media bullshits us all the time. And the Western commentators, they lie and they don't look at facts. I've shown you a few facts here. Take those facts, think about it. Look at that map of where Belarus is in relation to Ukraine, Poland, Baltics and Russia. Think about it. The West has been caught with their pants down once, and that was in February last year. Watch and check. It's going to happen again because their arrogance is clouding their minds. And on that note, please give me a like, and subscribe, and share this thing. Especially share it to Twitter and to Facebook if you. Thank you for your support.